What made the popular guy girl lose their popularity? Story 1. A popular boy cried in class during a discussion about a recent tragedy because someone that was close to him died in said tragedy. He got relentlessly bullied for the short time afterward that he was at that school. He was a good kid and didn't deserve any of that. I really hate middle school kids sometimes. Aw, that's actually so sad. Story 2. Popular girl was driving drunk on the way to school and caused a pretty bad accident involving 3 other cars. She spilled liquor on herself and slammed on her brakes in a line of cars. Her car managed not to have a scratch. She swapped seats with her passenger in front of everyone before cops arrived. A few minutes later, we realized she had disappeared. She had slipped into another car that had stopped to see if everyone was okay. Several people ended up getting tickets and her passenger ended up getting a DUI. She was unpopular until graduation. Story 3. Kid made a video for a school project, which he played in front of the class. Project video ended and cut to him beating his meat. He was a freshman. He spent the remainder of high school known only as the cameraman. Story 4. She got pregnant and had to quit cheerleading. The football players didn't want her anymore and her popularity took a hit. Plus the other girls were very judgmental. Story 5. This one popular girl in high school got so drunk at a party that she just started crapping herself everywhere. Some friends drove her home and she did it again in the back seat. Not easily forgotten, but it was one of those things no one would say anything about. It's just that the entire school knew by Monday afternoon. Crapping in the back seat, crapping in the front seat. Gotta make up my mind. Which seat can I take? Story 6. I went to the same school as the kids of the prime minister of my country at the time. I didn't know the daughter too well, but apparently she went from being popular to being bullied out of the school when her dad lost the election. It was pretty sad that people started hating on her for something she had no control over. When the kid of the leader of the goddamn country is in the school, opportunistic heads try to suck up to them. When the name no longer has meaning, they leave them in the ditch. It's a sad cycle. Story 7. He whipped his dong out during class and put it on the shoulder of the girl who was sitting in the desk in front of him. He got kicked out immediately, and I believe charges pressed for S*** assault. We were a couple of weeks from graduating too. It's crazy to think something like this lands S*** assault charge as it should, but so many other stories in this thread involve people knowing someone is guilty of full-blown R*** and doing literally nothing. Story 8. Guy wasn't extremely popular to begin with, but was well known. He punched some girl at my school in the face for no reason at a concert. Shortly after this, there was news that he rolled his brand new Camaro going 95 in a 45. This caused him and another guy at our school a lot of injuries. His friend lost his entire ear in the accident. Oh, and this is right after they stole beer from Kroger. They were drunk driving. Anyways, people kept their distance after this. Another kid that comes to mind was someone very popular in our grade. One of my friends went over to his house and used his computer without his permission. My friend ended up finding terabytes of child p times on his PC. From what I heard, the FBI even got involved. He never was seen at school again after that. How do you even manage to find literal terabytes of CP in such a short amount of time? Story 9. Freshman year of high school. Very popular guy who was the kid freshman phenom WR on a nationally ranked team. We were all leaving class one day. He randomly decided it was a good idea to make fun of a very well-loved handicapped guy who was dying of his condition, some advanced form of water on the brain if I remember correctly, and even decided to punch him. This knocked the poked to the ground. About 10 guys immediately jumped him. A shop teacher saw the WR getting his happen and let it continue for a minute before stopping things. Mr. Popular got quite messed up in that short window. Kicked off team, expelled, moved schools in a move that I'm guessing was a way to start over at a new school. Never heard from him again. Went from pep rally king to degenerate outcast in 5 minutes. I had a front row seat and was one of 50 plus who testified to the school admins. The victim passed away later that school year from his condition. You almost never heard him speak, but when he did, he was always kind and thoughtful. That's just sad. Story 10. In my grade we were seniors, and it was the last few days of school. Him and some of his buddies who were also popular, but not nearly as much, decided to vandalize the school at night. They spray painted dongs and stuff all over the outside of the place. They also sprayed the word "could have done worse" on the big entryway doors in the front. Well, they got caught. Their punishment, none of them graduate. They all had to repeat the year. Everyone thought they were idiots after that. According to one of my friends who was a grade younger, many people would say could have done better to them in passing. Story 11. He was a new kid, but due to his looks, parents' wealth, and sports attitude, he quickly became popular. Then he made the mistake of bullying a harmless kid who was on the spectrum and was basically the football team's lucky charm. They did not take kindly to that, and he went from being the next big thing to being the kid no one wanted to talk to, and he had to basically bribe people to keep them around. Story 12. He made fun of some girl's dead father drug overdose. The other popular kids confronted him about how fricked up that was, and he lost all of his popularity. I love how it's like there was some popular kid council that revoked his membership. Story 13. The guy was bragging for like a solid week about how he slept with like 3 girls at the school. Turns out 2 of them got pregnant. That was really bad luck. But that wasn't what made him unpopular. What made him unpopular was that one of the pregnant girls was known as the innocent religious girl and genuinely wanted to wait until marriage before having sex. Her friends started questioning why she changed her standards so suddenly. Turns out she was our time's ped. She was our time's ped and became incredibly withdrawn. Instead of getting her help or alerting the adults, everyone just sort of dropped her. Not being a cool kid, I learned about what actually happened years later. Unfortunately, girl, when I was in 6th grade, one of my classmates brought $90-ish to school. They were going to go shopping after school. She was the most popular girl in class. At some point during the course of the day, the money went missing. Our teacher went right to the superintendent's office right across the hall from our class. This was a super small school where there were only 212 kids total from kindergarten on up to 12th grade. Within minutes, they had pulled us all out of class and separated out the boys and girls. The 5th grade teacher took the girls into the bathroom 3 at a time and strip searched them, and the superintendent handled all of us boys. I didn't take the money, but I got in a stall, locked it, and refused to come out. I had some serious skid marks going on that day, and no one on this earth needed to go rooting around in my underpants. He finally gave up and let me go. The cops showed up a few hours later and interviewed all of us one by one. A few weeks later, it got out that she forgot to bring the money to school, and it was home in her bedroom the whole time. Despite us being in a rural area and the next nearest school being 30 miles away, the backlash was bad enough that her parents pulled her out of school and sent her to the next town over. In retrospect, people frick up, and her anger at her was misplaced compared to the mountain of lawsuits that should have come down on the superintendent. Story 14. I was the popular girl. Developed full-blown schizophrenia my sophomore year of school and had a spiral that rivaled a Hollywood movie. By the time I graduated, everyone knew me as the weird, crazy witch girl who talked to herself and had no friends. Now I'm out of high school, stable, on my meds, with people in my life who love me, and I haven't thought about popularity since. Life is wild. I am happy and proud of you for getting better. Congrats. I wish you the very best in the future. Mental health matters. Story 15. This was in elementary school. She peed her pants at recess. Then her mom came to the school with a change of clothes, but was livid about the accident. Gave her a very loud spanking in the bathroom, which everyone heard, then made her wear a diaper. I guess she wet the bed pretty often. I'm pretty sure her mom was intentionally humiliating her as a messed up punishment. This was in the 80s in rural Alabama. Things were and still are different there. Ironically, the mom was probably the root of the issue, or the very least exacerbating it. Pants bedwetting in elementary kids when they should be well past the age of potty training is often a symptom of several disorders. It could also very well be a health issue that she needed to see a urologist for. Story 16. They lost their place to a kind and warm-hearted sweet girl with a very sunny and positive vibe. Suddenly everyone was around her and not around the popular kid bully. Basically, the students finally saw what they really needed. That's kind of always been sort of the case at our school, thank God. Everyone adores her good vibes. This is actually kind of sad, but the guy I knew was declared athlete of the century at our school. He was amazing at football, track, rugby, and wrestling. Didn't play hockey though, which was big where I am. But everyone loved this guy because he almost single-handedly won us provincial championships. I hate to bring this into it, but he was also one of 2 black kids at our school, so he had to really break through some prejudices by some of the people there, as it's a small rural community. But then he suffered a gruesome leg injury that ended his career. So when he stopped playing sports, people sort of forgot about him. This was 12 years ago, and I actually saw him a few months back. He's doing well. I'm 2 years younger, and he was always nice to me. To make it even sadder, last year his brother, another great athlete, took his own life. He didn't go to our school though, and I didn't know him. This is the first story I've read in this thread where the popular athlete wasn't a total dong, but a sweet guy with the worst possible luck. Story 17. She was a B times of a B, pretty as a picture but dim as a dark room. Once people saw how she really was as a person, using her looks to get what she wanted and throwing a hissy fit once she didn't get it, caused people to lose interest real quick. I actually met her about a decade after we graduated, and she was a completely different person. Really humble and gentle. Actually a lot more clever than she appeared. No idea what she's doing now. It's great to hear when people turn their whole personality. Story 18. We found out he ducked a dog. He told us the dog licked him when he put peanut butter on his dong. Instantly couldn't look at him. Thought he'd chucked a duck at a dog for a moment. Story 19. Word got out that the guy our times pet his girlfriend and all of his popular friends tried to defend it. Just happened recently and it's still weird, since people either hate him or say he made a mistake. There was another guy who was more known than popular, and he just got booked in for ordering a 12-year-old. It's not a mistake if they're looking to be absolved of all meaningful punishment for it. But the worst people are those who defend it, the very definition of corruption. Story 20. There's a new kid at our school that I'll call Alex for the purpose of this story. He was athletic, funny, good-looking, etc. He got in with the popular kids pretty quick and got along with just about everyone. Buddy's small-town school. There was a special needs kid in our grade that I'll call Josh. Everybody loved Josh like a little brother, and we were all very protective of him. One day, about a week after Alex got to the school, he was teasing Josh out in the courtyard, and Josh was getting really upset. A few kids told him to cut it out, and Alex got angry, so he pushed Josh. He instantly was attacked by several of the nearby guys and was getting the snot beaten out of him until the teachers got there. Alex was suspended for 2 weeks, and the guys attacking him were suspended for 1 week. When he got back, he was basically shunned. Nobody would talk to him unless it was school-related. During gym class, people would do whatever they could to exclude him. He switched schools after a few weeks of this. Looking back at it, his treatment was really harsh, but he freaking deserved it in my eyes. Story 21. I was somewhat part of the crowd, and God, was there a lot of drama. One of the girls got shunned by practically our whole grade after it was revealed that she slept with the boyfriend of this other really well-liked girl. They were the ID couple. She got lots of judgment about it, though. Somehow the guy got away with it without much issue. I almost felt bad for her, but then I didn't, because the year before she made the Spanish teacher cry by being so rude. And later in the year she was caught cheating in bio and pressuring this really smart girl to give her the answers. She wasn't exactly a good person. Story 22. He pulled a gun on some football players trying to our times pay a middle school girl. The football players ended up going to prison. Students, teachers, and parents made his life a living heck because he ruined the school's chance to make it to state football championship. He didn't ruin it. Those other kids did. Story 23. Nothing that dramatic, but they graduate high school. Then they became a literal nobody. There was this kid, Matt, who spent all of grades 1 to 12 riding his older brother's fame. His older bro was a very charismatic and proactive, big into sports, the student council president, valedictorian, highest grades, you name it. Matt just walked in as the little bro and got all the attention and popularity from teachers and students because of who his brother was. It hit him hard when he went to the local university and realized that nobody knew him or paid him any attention. In June, he graduated high school as the valedictorian and had a massive amount of awards and scholarships. By the end of September, only 3 weeks into university, I saw him in biology class. You typically first-year general bio class that every program seemed to need. He was one of 500 students in a massive auditorium, sitting in the back. I noticed him because he was there with a friend, randomly shouting out comments and funny one-liners to try and mock the professor. The kind of crap that might have had people giggle and comment about "you're so cool," "you're so funny." In grade school, well, that didn't fly here. Instead of attention, all he got were nasty glares and being ignored by everyone. His entire world crumbled. He went through literal withdrawal from the lack of attention and popularity. Less than 6 weeks into university, he dropped out. My friends and I ran into him at a bowling alley a few weeks later. He was unrecognizable. From being thin and athletic, he looked like he put on 50 pounds and had a massive beer gut, scruffy beard, and married with 2 kids, each with different mothers. He had the whole world in the palm of his hand, and then reality smacked the life out of him. Story 24. Here's my story. In 5th grade we moved and I changed schools. I went from a school in the city where everyone got along and was friends to a school in the suburbs where I was introduced to popular and unpopular for the first time. As a fat, quiet kid, I was quickly deemed unpopular and took my fair share of abuse. Around March or April, my teacher moved our desks around and set up islands of 4 to 5 desks around the room, except for 2. The most popular boy in school, who was a troublemaker in class, and me, who moved our desks right up next to the side of hers. I later found out she did this for 2 reasons. 1, to keep an eye on him, and 2, she felt I'd be a good influence on him. A funny thing happened between then and the end of school. We became best friends, and I became the second most popular kid in school. I started getting invited to birthday parties. Kids stopped being crappy to me. I got invited to play football at lunch. Girls liked me. It was amazing. Then summer happened. We were in different classes the next year. He forgot about me. Then he moved, and everyone went back to treating me like crap. That's my little story about losing popularity. Dang, sorry to hear that. I also moved between 4th and 5th grade. And that transition as the new kid in an entire school of kids who have known each other for 4+ school years is a really rough one. Didn't really get picked on, but I definitely became super shy when everyone else knew each other so well. Story 25. He had already lost a lot of popularity from going to state-mandated rehab once, though the last straw was when he crashed and killed a girl before he made it out of his driveway only a couple months after he got out of mandatory rehab while driving drunk. Used to be friends with the guy, but he had a downward spiral and last I heard is still in jail. Don't drink and drive, people. It's not just your life on the line when you make that decision. Story 26. He was popular among the group of people he was associated with. I don't think he was super popular or anything. Pink grunge kid. All his popularity went out the window when he went out the window of his car after he crashed it into a building because he was huffing paint and speeding down the road with one of the group's popular girls. Thankfully, she survived, but from what I recall, he wasn't remembered so fondly after that. Story 27. Tall, good-looking foreign exchange student showed up one year with a killer smile and some impressive soccer skills. Never thought I'd see schoolgirls giggle and follow around boys in a crowd like they do in TV shows, but this guy made it happen. He abruptly stopped showing up one day after a few months. Don't know 100% what happened, but the rumor was that he got sent back for putting some pretty serious racist symbols in a poetry/art project, thinking it would be a funny joke. Story 28. This person had been a compulsive liar to the point where nobody believed a single thing she said. Let's make a list real quick. 1. After her boyfriend had told his friends that he had sex with her, she spread the rumor that she was pregnant and started wearing really baggy clothes. 2. She said she drove to the Super Bowl, which at the time was in Texas, and made it back the next morning for school. We live in Michigan. 3. Said she kissed Tom Brady at said Super Bowl. 4. Started drama and rumors with every person in the school. There was a girl like that at my school, and my teenage self felt that was justification to be kind of snarky with her. Now that I'm a parent, I really feel for that girl and what it must have been like to have that compulsion and have it constantly revealed in a way that eroded her credibility more and more each time. I'm sorry. Story 29. Member of National Honor Society got caught cheating on a final exam senior year. Their father bribed the principal by donating a card to be used for school activities so that they would graduate. Graduation day, every other member of NHS took off their robe before crossing the stage to accept their diploma. Story 30. They were brother and sister. Let's call them Eric and Megan. Eric was in his senior year and a couple of months from graduating. He was a jock, an idiot, and an absolute tool. Megan was a sophomore. She was actually nice. They were both very popular and reasonably attractive. Their friends would make comments about how hot their sibling was, etc. The two of them, for some fricked up reason, made a porno together and showed it to their friends. Somehow they were surprised when this led to being socially exiled. Megan ended up being sent to live with her grandparents about 1,000 miles away. This kind of stuff was not uncommon in the area I grew up in. Times and incest are quite rampant in rural Vermont, but no one wants to acknowledge that. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.